Fast Forward Productions. The women are speaking.
Hello, welcome back to The Unfiltered Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Ashley Pollard, and today we have an incredible guest with us. Can you imagine one day if I'm like, we have a terrible guest with us today. She sucks. No, not today. Our guest today is smart. She's funny. She's incredibly kind and warm. She really is so inspiring. She is the epitome of a doer, somebody who has an idea, pursues it, is relentless, resilient. She has so much tenacity in her. I hope that we can all take away a little bit of that go-getter spirit that she has. Her name is Ashton. She runs an Instagram account called Enneagram Ashton. And what's funny is that I followed that account for years. I'm a big Enneagram person. I'm a 3. Go take the test if you're not sure what you are. And the Enneagram is interesting because whatever result you get is 1 through 9. And it gives you just a little bit of an understanding of your personality, your motivations, what drives you. I always find that a personality test like that can show you so much about yourself. And that's what her passion has been for a while now. So not only do we dive into that business, we dive into her very interesting past and also some things that are in the future for her. I cannot wait for you to meet her. I adore her, and I know that you will too. Let's dive into this episode with Ashton. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Unfiltered Entrepreneur. I'm so excited about my guest today because we've been working together for a while, and I have watched so much growth, so much expansion, so much excitement over the past while. And she's not only a ray of sunlight, she's also extremely smart, extremely caring, just such a gem. Ashton Whitmoyer-Ober. And the crowd goes wild.
I know, it's such a mouthful.
I don't know if I said it right. I think.
Thanks for having me. You did. Yeah, you did. Thanks for having me. It's such an honor to be here. You were like one of my top 3 favorite people.
Well, you're one of my top 3 favorite people named Ashton. I have too big of a community. I can't play favorites. Do you know what I mean?
I know. I know, totally. But I'm just so excited to be here. And when I was thinking about it today, I have been working with you for a while.
I think it's been like a year and a half.
It's actually been a little over 2 years.
You're kidding.
Yeah, because my daughter was like 6 months old, I think, when we first connected.
Well, and we have a funny story for how we connected because you have a pretty big account. I was actually following you.
Yeah.
And you had, 400, 500,000 followers or something like that. And I was a fan of your content and what you do because it's niche and it's super helpful and impactful. I was a fan and follower. And then you DM'd me and you were like, hey, everybody's putting your name in my comment box on my Instagram story because I was like, I need to work with someone. Who do you recommend? And you were sent my way, which I would love to, whoever it was, thank you so much.
I wish I could go back and see who it was.
Yeah, I wonder if they're someone I know. But what's crazy is that then we started working together. And I remember telling my sister, shout out, hey, James, what's going on? And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm working with this Enneagram account. And she was like, if it's Enneagram Ashton, I'm going to fangirl. And I'm like, no, she's like the nicest person in the entire world. And here you are.
Yeah, I remember at that point, my business was starting to really grow. And I was like, I need some direction. And I just put it out on my stories, who would you recommend? And there were quite a few people who recommended you. And of course, I got other recommendations. But when I started to dive deep into what I needed and who I wanted to work with, I will never forget, we got on that discovery call. And I think I was walking around my neighborhood when I was on a call with you. And I was like, I need to work with you.
Well, and now we've been, working together for a while. But what's crazy is that Ashton, don't downplay how much you did. You're my business was starting to grow. Okay, you were a 2 times published author with 500,000 followers on Instagram, speaking opportunities, LOL, it's starting to grow. But let's talk a little bit about it. Now, we are not going to dive into Enneagrams, guys. If this is the one where you're tell me if a 4 should be dating a 6, we're not doing that today. We are not uncovering those truths. We're here to get to know Ashton. And if you want to find out more about your Enneagram, you can follow her because she is a genius. But what got you started? I actually don't know the origin story of you finding passion in the Enneagram, learning about it. Do you know, are you aware of the first time you encountered it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like a lot of people, I discovered it on social media first, but also in my master's program. So I was getting my master's degree in psychology at the time. And so we were, we've always talked about in all of my schooling, we talked about, Myers-Briggs, strength finders, DISC assessment. And then in my master's program, I discovered the Enneagram at the same time that I started seeing people post about it on Instagram. And what I loved about it is that it's different and that it can be used as a tool to like help people and to help people with their relationships and things like that. Whereas with the other tests, I was like, oh, I just kind of like know this information and now I'm going to go on with my life. And so then I went ahead and graduated like that semester. And then I started my account on January 1st, 2019, in the car driving back from
Wait, you started
my
it in
family.
2019?
Yeah,
Ashton, that was like yesterday.
I know.
If we've been working together
know.
for 2 years, you had it for a year and a half, 2 years at that point only.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
In my head, you have been doing this for like 10.
That's what it feels like.
You're like, correct. I have been doing it for 10. It just happened over a 4-year period.
Yeah. So yeah, January 1st, 2019. Although like we had a pandemic in there, so that's why it probably feels like
6 extra
a long
years.
time.
And you
Yeah.
had 2 kids.
But and I've had 2 kids.
Yeah.
Like what? And I got married. I wasn't even married to Derek
Wow.
when that started.
The
Yeah.
Enneagram business really saw all of your biggest moments
What?
lately.
Literally. But yeah, and so I just started my account to like share what I was learning. Then it kind of just like happened.
That's so
organically,
interesting, though.
where
I'm going to stop you because you just said the key to success in that one sentence. I just started.
Yeah,
I just started.
Mhm.
I think one of the questions that really concerns me is that when people ask me how to start, because it's one thing to start something new and you're already in your business, but if people aren't sure where to start, I understand that mindset holds you back and that it's scary and things like that. But sometimes we just put too much heaviness on it. And it's kind of nice to just like take any heaviness off, take any monetization off and just say like, I'm just going to start sharing stuff I like. I'm just going to post about it. That's how I started. I was just posting about how I was making money as a side hustle and different side hustles that are profitable. And I wasn't even trying to make money from it. And I think that that is one of the things that really makes you and really makes people successful is to say, let's just start. Let's not like put any of these rules or boundaries in place. Let's just like see what happens first.
Well, and I find that even throughout my business, then like that's when I see the most success is not when I overanalyze what I'm sending in an email or when I overanalyze what I'm posting on my social media. It's just when I do it.
Right.
And to not get caught up in like the perfectionism of like, it would have been so easy for me to be like, oh, I don't want to share this stuff on Instagram because there are so many other people who know more about the Enneagram than me. Like, what if I did that? Like, I wouldn't be where I am today with the Enneagram,
It's fascinating. It really is that. And I'm glad that we circle back. I don't know anything about this part of your story. In my head, you've like always had an Enneagram guy. You know how like in your mind, your parents have always been parents?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you've always had an Enneagram account and a successful one. So how fast did you start seeing traction? And were you posting a ton at the beginning or were you just kind of using it for fun, like posting things here and there? Like when did you go from I'm going to post things that I'm learning to what if I made this a little cleaner and streamlined and put some thought behind it? What was that shift like?
Yeah. So at that time, my jobs before this was I always worked in like the nonprofit world. And so I worked with survivors of domestic and sexual violence. And so I was working a full-time job. So it was hard for me to like devote a ton of time to content creation. But of course, that's how most things start in this world is you sprinkle in a little bit of side hustling here and there. But I didn't ever have the thought that it was going to be monetized, right? Or like I was going to be able to do that. So I didn't put in a lot of effort at first. It just was like, oh, I'm going to upload this, whatever. And it was probably like 6 months after that I came home and said, like, I think I need to pursue this a little bit further. And that's when I like went and got certified in the Enneagram And it kind of like became more real to me. But still at that point, I was like, oh, I can do this for like some extra side money. And like, we're just getting married. That'll be like really helpful, Never in my wildest dreams did I think like, oh, I'm going to quit my job.
How soon after you, I guess, starting the account, taking the account seriously, how quickly were you like, I'm going to monetize this and quit my job?
So I quit my job in January of 2020.
So a year later.
Which was like, oh, wow, that was like really brave. I am also a very big risk taker. Like, I know that a lot of people wouldn't have quit their job when I did. Like, we didn't have all of our ducks in a row. We didn't have like X amount of money in the bank. It was like, I feel like I need to devote more time to this, and I can't. I also had a 2-hour commute, like round trip. It was a lot. And I was like getting home at night, and then I would take calls like till 11 o'clock at night. And it just was like too much for me. And so I had gained some traction at that point. My first book was going to come out in 2020.
Hold on.
And
I
was
skipped
like,
a big step there, Ashton. So you're starting to grow the account. You're still in a full-time job.
Yeah.
Where'd the book come from?
Yeah.
So we wrote a book. We were approached for a book. We self-published a book. Like, what was the book scenario like?
Yeah. I was approached for the book, which was a very big surprise. I had always wanted to write a book. And again, there was so much like imposter syndrome in there, right? Like, am I actually equipped to write this? And do I feel like looking back now, it was my best work? Like, absolutely not. Like, I still recommend it, obviously, but my second book was much better.
Well, I mean, do we think Taylor Swift thinks her debut album is her best work?
No, it's so true. It's so true. She probably does look back and like cringe, right, at like some of the things. But it was like such a great experience to be able to write that book and like put it out into the world. But it again came out in like the heart of the pandemic. Like, literally, we were all still shut down when it came out. And so all of my like hopes and dreams of like a book tour and going to bookshops, like I wasn't able to do that. I was doing a lot of virtual events, and I was like, oh, this is kind of a bummer.
And what's the first book called?
The Enneagram for Relationships. So it was like all about relationships and the Enneagram.
And what was that period like from like you being approached, you writing the book? Like, were you given any insight or mentorship through that process, or were they just like, onward?
No, I was given a lot of mentorship, like working with an editor and all of those things. And so I wrote it in about 6 months. So yeah, it was very exciting. It was wild. But I had a full-time job at the time.
That's what I'm getting at. I'm a little in awe right now. You know what I mean? I'm finding out my parents were teenagers at one point in time. So for me, what is happening is like, okay, you start the account, you're doing it for fun. You're obviously taking it semi-serious in the sense that like you're considering what your graphics look like and you're thinking about the account and how to grow it. You're still working a full-time job, like an emotionally taxing full-time job. Like, let's also mention.
Yeah.
And then you're approached to write a book. You write a book in 6 months while you're running this account, while the account is growing to a couple 100,000, while you are getting married, while you have a full-time job. Do you see how mad that is?
I'm actually exhausted listening to you talk about it.
I think that we don't notice in the moment, one, how much we're capable of, and two, I did that. Have you ever had a moment like that?
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, like literally every day, I feel like I have moments like that where like, not just I did that, but like I'm doing, like I'm actively doing this, which is
because
wild.
Since then, you did quit your job, right? We have the first published book. Right around the time I met you, I believe the journal came out. Was that the second book?
Yeah.
There was a journal that came out. That's
between.
Actually such a cool concept. If I remember correctly, it's couples answering the same prompt daily for 3 years or something to kind of see how they changed over the years. Such a great idea. Yeah. Such a great little memento. What's that called?
The Two of Us.
We love it. And so that came out, but you also have the text service. You do calls to help people find their Enneagram. You know, it's what, $3, $4, $5 to join the text service?
$5. And I like will never like you thinking that I'm like absolutely insane for doing it.
The text message service for Enneagram Ashton, just know I tell her frequently to shut it down. And she says, no, I want to do it for them. On my end, I just want to make sure that I'm saving you time because you personally write all of them. And I just think that that is so unbelievable that there are 9 different Enneagram profiles that are getting text messages from you 7 days a week, right? 7 days a week, 30 days a month. That's 270 text messages you are writing every single month. That's wild to me.
It is insane. It's totally insane.
But it is a really great nurture.
Totally
it's only $5. They get so much value from it. Do you know what's interesting? We're 16 minutes in, and you know what I didn't do? What if someone doesn't know what the Enneagram is?
Yeah. I always say the Enneagram is like an ancient personality typing system where it separates people into 9 different types. But what's different about the Enneagram base compared to other personality systems is that it's based on your motivation. So it's not like this is who you are, these are your personality traits. It's why you do things the way that you do, why you're that way. So it's the how and the why behind why we do the things that we do.
And I've been obviously, 1, following you for a while, 2, working at least like peripherally in your space at some point. One of the things I notice you answer all the time as a frequently asked question is, can my Enneagram change over a span of time? And that's something that I've even wondered. I'm like, well, maybe I was a 7 when I was growing up and now I'm a 3, but what's your answer when people are like, can my number change?
No, your number cannot change. So it's, your behaviors are going to change. Like, thank God, right? That we grow and we mature and we aren't, the same person we were when we were 14. But your motivations, you should be able to look back on your life and see how those motivations. So like for a 3, for example, for you, the desire to like be successful or to be seen as like capable, competent, to be valued in this season of your life, obviously a lot of that is going to be related to you as an entrepreneur and a successful businesswoman. But you can probably look back and see how you wanted to represent those things even as a child, a teenager,
captain of the dance team, the like leader of the pack in the neighborhood. It's so funny. And now this is a little bit more like, what's the word? A little bit more philosophical, let's say. But is your belief that Enneagram is more nurture or more nature? AKA, do you feel like this is something people are born with or something that just is a result of something really soon in their, like early on in their life?
Yeah. So I am of the belief system, and most Enneagram experts are, that you are born with your type. And that's why you can see siblings who might have like similar life experiences grow up and have completely different types because we are born with the type that we're going to have. A lot of people don't have the language to talk about why they do the things that they do until they're like late teenagers or like really in their 20s, their 30s, when they start to analyze why they behave a certain way. And so you have your type as a child, you just don't know.
Yeah. And I think that also probably relieves a little bit of stress, maybe even from parents, to be like, well, I don't want to like do the wrong thing. And then they end up this one Enneagram number that's maybe more successful or more greedy or more, I don't know,
Right.
It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. So for example, I'm a 2 and their biggest desire is to like feel loved and wanted and needed. And so like growing up, I always had to like prove I wanted people to love me. And it wasn't that like my parents didn't love me. I perceived that. So a lot of it as a kid is like the perception that like for a 3 is probably like you need to work in order to like know your worth. You need to like succeed in order to like be a good person or to be seen as respected and things like that.
It's very interesting. Okay, so going back to your timeline, because I'm just fascinated now by your life. I've worked with you for so long. We talk frequently. And there's so much of this story that I don't know. So you start this account, you're doing it for fun. It's exploding, it sounds like. It sounds like it was a quick trajectory.
Yeah.
To be fair, the kind of content that you're doing is, in essence, the purpose of it really is engagement in the comments and shareability. Because people are saying like, oh, this is how you can get to know me. Here are things that you can know about me, right? And if you follow Enneagram Ashton, you can see what I mean by that. But the account starts to grow. You write your first book. Great. You do your second book, which is this journal. And there was a moment that you and I spoke because you were like, I'm too involved in the business. I need to find other aspects. More than anything, it's the same reason everybody comes to me, which is like, I need another set of eyes here. What am I missing? What are the gaps? What are the opportunities here? And that's what you and I have kind of worked on for a while, which kind of brings us up to speed to now. The exciting thing, which is that you launched your second business.
Yeah, very exciting.
It's like, she's unstoppable, this one.
I always do things like, I'm just always do things chaotically, I feel like.
It might feel chaotic,
I launched my
but
second
you've been talking about this
business.
for a while.
I know. But like I launched the second business and then I go and have a baby like 7 weeks early.
Yeah.
So I launched this business and I'm like, woo, I'm going to like build some momentum and like get, everything set up so that when I have this baby, and then boom, I had him 7 weeks early. And it was like,
And the stress of
I
that
just
is
signed on
unbelievable.
clients. Yeah, it was wild. So yeah, it's super exciting now. And I launched the Business Gal Co., which is business consulting for women who, just kind of want to not do what I do, but be able to like have the flexibility. Like that's really what I want deep in my heart, and why I'm often reflecting on, wow, like I can't believe I'm doing this, is that like I'm able to build my own hours and I'm able to go to an amusement park on a Monday if I want to. And I know you talk about that too, like about like going to the zoo, and I don't have to be like sitting at my computer from 9 to 5, like every single day. Like I would hate that. And I just like want people to be able to do that if they want to, and have some guidance and know how to build a business. This is actually my third business.
What was the first?
Because I had a women's boutique,
Oh my
brick
gosh,
and
that's
mortar,
right.
for 5 years.
Ashton, 9 lives.
Literally 9 lives. Yeah, literally.
Wow.
Mhm.
So you had a women's boutique.
Yeah.
What did you sell?
Mostly accessories. So like jewelry, handbags.
So fashion, or was it like also cool tumbler mugs and like gifts and stuff?
Yeah, I would say jewelry and gifts, accessories, things like that.
I love a little shop like that. I would love.
Yeah.
I would love to own something like that one day.
I mean, it was like so great, but it was not that profitable, right? Because it's really hard to have a brick and mortar boutique where, you have so much overhead. But, I feel like that I learned so much. And so like some of the clients that I'm working with now do have brick and mortars, right? Because I have experience.
You're like, I can help you with that because I've been there.
Yeah, marketing is just different with a brick and mortar and than a digital business. So I do feel like I have learned so much. I'm like sitting here thinking about, and even when I closed my store, I had it for 5 years.
5 years?
At that point.
Some serious. Okay, you are so 9 lives.
Well, I opened it. I graduated from college on May 4th, and I opened it on May 24th. So like I was 22. Like literally.
And what was that experience like closing?
So here I am.
Like, was that a tough decision? Did that like hurt the ego at all?
Oh my God, I was devastated, literally devastated, because it was like my blood, sweat, and tears. Like I talk about now the freedom that my business gives me to like be able to go and do whatever I want essentially, or like go on vacation. But I didn't have employees then. So like I worked Monday through Saturday. I was at the store all day, right? So like I was only closed on Sundays, and even not like every Sunday. I had it in a touristy town. So if it was like the summer or the holiday season, I was there. So I was there 7 days a week. And so even though like I was a business owner and it was cool, like I didn't have the flexibility that like sells a lot of people on being an entrepreneur. So, when I closed my store, it was a lot of like a loss of identity. And I was pretty well known in like my small town for like having this store.
What was the name?
So it was definitely challenging. It was called Glitz Boutique.
Very cute.
You can tell I named it when I was 22.
I love it.
It was an incredible learning experience. It was like 5 years. It kind of felt like I was going to college, like it was like 5 years of learning.
And that an experience like that is just unmatched. You learn more in a day than you would in a month of college. It's just, you're really put through the ringer. So it's a great comparison also. Now, you've had the boutique. You ran the Enneagram business. You have multiple published books. You have your text message line that I keep telling you to shut down, but you're not going to because you care about your people too much. You have Business Gal, where you're helping people grow their businesses and give them expertise on how to scale and monetize. If we have 9 lives, what's next? What else is on the vision board? 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot on the vision board. And I feel like that's part of my issue is I never stop like
Yeah.
thinking about what's next.
You're a 0 to 1. Do you know what
Um,
that is? A 0 to 1 founder? You want to
no.
start businesses, you don't want to run them. I want to do this for the first year and a half to get it up and running, and then you go take over. And then I have this other idea. And like, what if we did this and then we grew it? And then, okay, like, what if you took over then?
Yeah, that's so true. Because I love to build businesses. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about like the business Galco, because I feel like I have a hand in like helping people like start their businesses and running them and seeing like how they can get off the ground with it.
That's why I think consultants are good when they are 0 to 1. I'm for sure like a 0 to 1 type of founder where I want to start something, I want to get it up and running, and then I want to pass the torch. I feel the same way. I feel like my itch is really scratched in consulting because I kind of am building all these businesses, you know? And sometimes I have ideas where I'm like, oh, I would never do it because it wouldn't be right for me personally, but it's such a good idea. And I'll think of someone and I'm like, they need to do this. They're the right person for this. And I'm like, you have to do this idea. It's genius. It's going to be perfect for you. You're going to make a ton of money. And then I get to help them grow it. Do you know what it feels like? It almost feels like I'm a surrogate.
Yeah, that's such a good point though. Yeah.
It's like, give me your idea. Really I'm going to help you incubate it. And then you go raise the child.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And it's, I'm sure you feel the same way though, but when I get some of these people on, the phone and when I'm talking to them, I'm like, the ideas just like come out so naturally. And I don't want to do any of the work, but I want to like throw the ideas at you.
Totally.
For sure. What's really cool is when I have people who have Enneagram businesses. That's like my sweet spot, right? Because I'm like, yeah, let's talk about how you can build your product suite based on your coaching services.
Well, that leads to a very interesting question that I have, because I just realized you and I share an ethos of something else we have not discussed, a value system, let's say, where what you just said in essence was, if I work with someone who has a similar business to me, I'm going to give them the cheat codes. There's so many people out there, though, who say, if you have a similar business to me, I'm not saying a word. Because there's a fear of, you could take this. This could be stripped of me. So tell me a little bit about how that is with you. I know why I feel comfortable with, I tell everyone, take everything. I don't care. Like, take it all. What do you think about working with Enneagram businesses? It sounds like, you share that you're comfortable, but like, what's that experience like? And why isn't there some level of fear that they could steal the empire you've created, let's say, for it to be dramatic?
I think personally that people come to me for services because of me. And so somebody's going to come to you because of who you are, right? And so when I first started the business Galco, and I have been working with you for a long time, like I definitely had that fear of like, is Ashley going to feel weird about this? Because like, I'm doing business consulting, she's doing business consulting, but it's so totally different, like dependent on the person, right? And you work with people that are different than like my clientele. And so even if somebody comes to me and they have an Enneagram consulting business, like their client is going to be different than my client, and who they are as a person and the way that they structure their things is going to be different than the way that I do. And I actually love working with people who have Enneagram businesses because I'm like, I know exactly what to do and I know exactly what they need.
Well, and the way that I view it is that like, if I have made the decision to share publicly or privately one-on-one about my business tactics, my techniques, my methods, I can understand how someone would say, but that's proprietary to me. However, the way that I view it is that if you're going to learn and pick up on somebody's way of doing things and how it impacts their market and how it impacts their business, how are you supposed to unlearn that to then not bring it into your business? I had a client once who, like a nightmare client who I worked with, she worked in a specific industry that a ton of people work in. And I was learning so much about this industry, helping her grow her business. And then she got upset when I worked with other people in that industry because she was like, well, now you know all about this industry. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Not learn it? There's people who will be like, by the way, so-and-so is offering VIP days like you were and strategy sprints, which is what I call my month-long strategy packages. And they're offering strategy sprints. They're the same price and it's basically the same copy. I'm like, cool. It worked for me. Take it. Go take it. One, try. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to take my business.
Yeah, right.
Two,
right.
the reason it works is because I adapted it to my ways. And I know my clients and I'm
Mhm.
doing the market research on my audience and I know what they want and I know what they say yes to and I've nurtured them for years. So you can't just like copy anyway. But the other thing is like, if it worked for me and my goal genuinely is to help women or to help businesses or to help people, then if you take something you learned from me and put it into practice, that's a win in my eyes. You know, I'm
Yeah.
so glad I could have given you that information, given you that win, like pulled you up the ladder, propelled you in some way that maybe you could go quicker than I could. I tell everybody it would be a win if everybody leaves my space and makes more money than me. That's a blessing.
I agree. And, there's just so much like, quote, competition in the world. We don't need to be competing with people in this space. Why don't we support each other? And so when I get people who contact me for business consulting and they have an Enneagram business, I'm like, yes, like I get very excited about it. So I'm glad to hear that you're the same
No,
way.
I totally am. I think, there's only a few things really that I think and honestly, I don't even know at this point. And maybe it's just like I've been in business for a while or like tested your stuff enough that I'm like, I don't think anyone could like knock me off of, I don't even want to say like, what I've built by any means, but it's like, I'm not going to be unsuccessful because someone else is doing what I'm doing. And I'm
Right.
just not a competitive
Yeah.
person. I think that's the other thing. I'm not scared about not being successful. I know I'll be successful. I know I'll be fine. So it's just cool to hear you say that. Now, I do want to come back to a question you avoided. Like, what else is on the vision board? Does Ashton want a TV show? Does Ashton want...
So here's the thing about me. Like, I have such a hard time thinking big picture. And honestly, you bring that out in me. Because like in the doers that I love to be a part of, even, the application I just submitted for 2024, I was forced to sit there and think about like what I want to see out of Enneagram Ashton and really just, the business gal and everything. I have a hard time thinking big picture as like a TV show. I think that as video becomes like more, not just like more popular, but more accessible.
Yeah, I mean, God, it's
where
so
like
so expensive to do video and it's just getting more and more affordable, actionable.
Yeah, like I think like even like a YouTube channel would be cool as like a stepping stone into more heavily broadcast things. But, like I used to have a podcast. I toy with the idea of like starting a podcast again. And my husband lost his job. I'm told the doers that. And so some of these things are like becoming more possible in my mind with having him on board and being able to like delegate some more things. So I also would love to have a Enneagram certification program. And that kind of like combines my passion for what we just talked about, like educating the Enneagram people on not just like the Enneagram, but then how to run a successful business utilizing the Enneagram. So that's on my radar. I'm also in the middle of writing another book right now.
She doesn't
Which
stop,
nobody
guys.
knows.
When I think I work hard, I just need to remember Ashton because, I mean...
It's like a reference book. So it's a smaller, shorter, like handbook, everyday handbook on the Enneagram. But I'm currently in the middle of that. So there's just always something. Like there's always ideas that I'm thinking of and things that I want to do and really just ways to like serve people. Like I am constantly just thinking of like how much information I can get out to people and show them like the value of this personality tool that like has essentially changed my life.
Yeah. And, I think it's interesting that you allow yourself to try. I think it's really great to hear that you continue to say like, what's next and find power in the discomfort, which is like cliche, but so cool. I do want to, before we like totally wrap, I do want to talk a little bit about Derek, if it's not off limits, because one of the things that I can't relate to when I'm speaking to business owners is the trials of being a wife. I say wife specifically because I do typically work with women, but married people and mothers. And what has it been like for you being a mother now of two while running two businesses, writing a book, etc.?
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. And I think about like what I could accomplish if I didn't have those roles, but yet those roles kind of made my business what it is. You know what I mean? So I'm like super, super grateful for family. Like my mom is here right now. She watches my kids on 2 days a week. So I work 3 days a week, and we have family for childcare, which is such a privilege that I know a lot of people do not have. And I don't take it lightly that we have that, as well as like a super supportive partner. Like if I didn't have a super supportive partner who was like, okay, yeah, you can quit your job, right? Like 6 months before we got married, it would look totally different. Or, he is a 6. I know we didn't talk about the Enneagram, but he is not a risk
Yeah, he's
taker
like,
at
what are the
all. And
parameters?
yes,
What are the rules?
yes. And I've been telling him ever since he lost his job a couple months ago, I've been coming up with about 17 business ideas that he could do. And, he's just not the type that is like, oh yeah, I can like do that. And, I think for entrepreneurs in general, we're like, we can see how things can be monetized. And I think it's hard for people who don't have like that natural strength to see like in, a few months how you can be making money, because nobody goes and starts being an entrepreneur and like makes money
Yeah.
immediately. Right. And so it's part of that risk. And some people have that natural ability to like jump into things, and other people are like,
Sometimes you just have to see it work once, because sometimes I don't even think people are confident that they can monetize things. That's why I always tell people, I don't want you to make a ton of money. I want you to make a little money right away, because you're going to kick off with, oh my God, I just made $300. I'm over here like, I can make you $300,000, but like, I need you to see what 300 looks like in 1 hour, or like 2 hours of work. And then they get hooked and they're like, okay, I get it. This is amazing. This is life-changing. So maybe we need to find like a little test for D-money, you know what I mean? So that it gets a little little taste of the itch.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, I'm always like thinking of
Totally.
5,000 things we could be doing. But if I didn't have like, I think it's also important too, because I am so creative. I am like always doing like 5,000 things at once. Like he kind of pulls me back down and like brings me back to reality.
Like, hey, we have a life. We're going to the beach.
Yeah. And I am very prone to like being a workaholic and opening my laptop at night. And if I'm like, just have a TV show on in the background, like, sure, I can like do these things that I didn't get done off my to-do list today. And he kind of helps me have that work-life balance that is, again, really hard for some entrepreneurs to have and maintain.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who maybe like doesn't have a supportive partner, or is a mom and is like wondering, could I ever figure this out? Like, do you have advice for someone? Because that's something I can never really lend, because I don't have that experience. Yeah. What kind of advice would you give somebody who's like, I really want to do this and I don't know if I'm able to the way that you would? Do you have anything encouraging for that kind of person, that kind of situation?
First of all, if you don't have a partner, it's so important. And I am not just saying this because it's you, but it's so important to like find your people, right? And like find other people who are doing similar things to you, other entrepreneurs who, don't maybe have coworkers or employees or things like that, so that you have that support. Even if you don't have a partner, you have that support system. And that's just, and even, for me who does have a partner, like I need to have that, because I'm not going to an office and socializing with people and, have sitting in meetings and things like that. So that is super important. But, if you are a mom and you're like, I want to do this and I want to have that flexibility with my kids, I think it goes back to what I said at the very beginning, is like, take the step. And like you said, once you start to see some of that traction, you start to see the reward from that risk, you'll get hooked and you'll be like, wow, I can go to this library class at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. Like, sure, you can build your clients around those things, right? Like I work Wednesdays typically, but I go to library and then I come home and I work. And once you start to like see how you can weave your work into your life instead of like your life into your work, I think it just is really powerful.
If you had a let's say a $350 offer, if you sold 5 a week for a month, that's like $6,000.
Yeah. And I don't think people understand that.
The math, when you dilute it down, it's like, wait, I could build a course based on some general knowledge I know sell 5
Yep.
of them every week. So maybe all Monday, your goal is to try to find 5 people to purchase this course. You could make $1,500 that week, almost $2,000, and 5, 6 a week, let's say. And you could end up making 5, 6 grand for the month.
Yeah. Yeah. And people don't understand that. And obviously it takes
It
work.
does take work, and it's not
And
as
it takes
simple as
having
that,
the right
but
people. Yeah. And having people in your corner and having your market research and all of the things. But you are capable of doing that. And sometimes that can be like life changing to a
Mhm.
family, right? And it's something that, you're going to build from.
Totally.
It's a foundation and you can build from that and really like change your life. Like now, like I am providing for my family of 4 with my like little tiny side hustle that I started back in 2019.
Little tiny side hustle. I'm going to slap you across the face.
I mean, it was
Yeah,
tiny.
yeah.
back then.
What has grown from your tiny side hustle?
Yes.
Ashton, we've covered everything. I mean, besides your work,
I'm exhausted.
now, like we didn't
Yes.
ask you about elementary school, but we really went there today.
Yeah, we did.
I learned a lot about you
I love
today.
chatting with you. I could chat with you like all day
Ashton,
long.
it would be my dream to chat with you all day long. Are you kidding?
Yeah, let's do it.
I am just obsessed with you. Ashton, where can people fall in love with you the way that everybody else has?
They can come on over to my community at Enneagram Ashton. It's ENNEAGRAM Ashton on all of the platforms. So primarily Instagram.
What about Business Gal?
Is where I hang out. Oh yeah, the Business Gal. I'm like terrible at marketing myself. Also at the Business Gal Co.
Business Gal Co.
Business Gal Co.
And then what about the books? So we mentioned, what was the first one?
Enneagram for Relationships. And then the journal is called The Two of Us. And then my third book is called The Enneagram Made Simple. And then I have another one coming out next year that I'm writing right now.
Jeez,
So
girl.
stay tuned for that one.
She don't stop.
Yeah,
well, thank you for
I
coming
know,
on
it's
here.
crazy.
Wait, before we go, one question I did want to ask you. I'm an Enneagram 3. You're a 6, right? You're a 2.
I'm a 2.
Yeah,
Derek's a
you're
6.
a 2.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Is there anything about our dynamic and our relationship that you can tell because of our Enneagrams?
So without opening up a can of worms, I have a very strong 3 wing, which means the wings are the numbers on either side of your main type. And so my behaviors tend to look a lot like a 3.
But feel like a 2.
And so I feel like, and like the motivations are like the 2. And so because of that, I can relate to you a lot and your 3-ness. And the 2 and the 3 really can be very similar at times. It's just, 3s are more about feeling like respected or valued. And 2s, it's about feeling loved and wanted. And so a lot of those things do coexist, right? And so there's just a lot of crossover there.
Kind of funny too, because I am an Aries sun and a Pisces moon and a Pisces rising, which if you know anything about astrology, Aries is like go-getter, ambitious, headstrong, stubborn, a little bit of an asshole, petty. And then I have a Pisces rising and a Pisces moon. And Pisces is like, I'm going to cry all day. I'm very sensitive. Don't hurt my feelings. I'm a feeler. I'm an empathizer. I understand you. I want to write poetry about it. So it's really funny because like a 3 wing 2, which is what I, am, is very much an Aries Pisces situation where it's like all of the motivation is like, let's go. But behind closed doors, it's very much like, but it kind of hurts a little bit.
Yeah. Which I never would have like guessed that about you, because whenever my feelings are hurt, like I always come to you guys and I'm like, help me get over this, or like help me feel better about this.
Yeah. Anytime I tell people that I'm an Aries Pisces, they're always like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I know it's rough. 2 very conflicting emotions at all time. Anyway,
I feel like the number one question I always get, I wouldn't say number 1, maybe number 2, is what is the connection between astrology and Enneagram?
Oh, you get that question
and all the time. And like there is some crossover there, it's not studied well.
That's
like research hasn't been done on it. I know, but like when you say about like an Aries and being a 3, we can see that we oftentimes I'm a Libra, And a Libra is also very 9, and 9s and 2s look similar. And so like you can see some similarities, but that's like super interesting about your links.
Anyway, so now you guys have learned a little bit about me.
Yeah.
Ashton, you're the best. I'm so grateful for you. I feel so lucky that even one person would recommend me to anybody. And I'm even more grateful that they recommended me to you, because it has been such an honor to watch how much you've grown, both like in your business, but also in yourself. And
Thank you.
I really hope that you're as proud of yourself as I am proud of you.
You know, this has actually been good to like sit here and think about the things that have happened over the past several years, because you do as an entrepreneur kind of get stuck in like the day to day and completing your to-do list and all of the things. And you rarely, I feel like, look back and be like, oh, wow, I built this. Yeah, like I built this. So thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. All right, guys, we will catch you on another episode of The Unfiltered Entrepreneur, and I will see you next time.